Hello, Kidney Warriors. James here with Dadvice TV, and this is Dadvice TV Live. Yes, this is not a pre-recording. This is actually live. And during this broadcast, if you're watching it live, not watching a recording of it, you can actually chat with me and our guest by using the chat box right next to the video. As a matter of fact, I see lots of people there chatting already. Awesome. Hey there. Colorado, Birmingham, UK, awesome. All right, so a couple little things to let you guys know. There's about a 30-second delay from the things that I say before you hear them. So we may ask a question, or we will ask questions. Just understand that we asked those 30 seconds ago, so we're going to try to give you guys a little bit of a buffer by chit-chatting after we ask a question, so there's time for your comments to pop up on the screen here. But if you have a question, ask it. This is a great opportunity to have one of the best resources any kidney patient can have. Now, as all of you know, I was diagnosed stage 5 kidney failure, and I'm a numbers guy. I love numbers. And my doctor told me I had a 0 chance of getting better. Oh, boy, was she wrong. And how did I do it? Well, there are 2 people who helped me a lot. One, my amazing primary care physician. He was Mr. Positive. He told me, James, come see me. The moment you get out of the ICU, I'm going to help you. You can get better. Don't worry. And then number 2 person who helped me, the first thing he told me to do, go see a renal dietitian. And I did. And for Kidney Warriors, a renal dietitian is your hero to help you kick kidney disease to the curb. Now today we have with us Jen, who is a renal dietitian. Everybody say hello to Jen.
Hey everybody. I am so happy to be here.
You're getting a lot of thumbs up. I know you can't see it, Jen, but they're popping up on the screen.
That's great. My cheeks hurt. I'm from smiling already. It's really, really great.
Yep. So I'm here in Cincinnati, Ohio, and you are where? Let's tell everybody. Don't be surprised. Or wait, let's have everyone guess. There's a lot of people on here chatting. Where is Jen at right now? I'm going to tell you, it's a little bit earlier in the day. It's 6 p.m. here. Ooh, I'm seeing lots of good questions. Any guesses? I'm seeing, people in Utah. Hey there, everybody in Utah. Awesome. People are guessing. All right, Jen, where are you from? Let's tell everybody.
Well, right now I am living in Hawaii.
Woo! That is a great place to be. Warm weather, sun, beaches. Awesome.
Yeah, can't complain. Cannot complain.
Now, Jen, tell us, what are you? What are your credentials? I already told them you're a renal dietitian. But you got a whole bunch of letters after your name. What are all those letters and what do they mean?
Thanks, James. Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me and for doing this live with me. I am so excited, and it is such an honor to be talking with you and talking all things kidney. Like, I totally love doing that. So my thing is I am a renal dietitian, and yeah, there's a lot of letters behind my name. Basically, I'll go through. So the RDN, I'm a registered dietitian nutritionist. I've gone through my undergrad. I've gone through the internship, which means I've worked in the hospitals and long-term schools, across the board, a ton of places. I had to get a ton of hours logged during that time. And then I took a national exam to become a registered dietitian. So that's the RDN, registered dietitian nutritionist. Then the CSR, I am board certified in renal nutrition. So after I became a dietitian, I went through the hours, the internship, the exam, my schooling, everything there. I did more. I did another 2,000 hours in specifically the kidney area, working with people who have kidney disease. And then I took another national exam, all focused on renal nutrition. So that gave me my CSR. And then the LDN means that I am licensed in some of the states in the US, because you need to follow state licensure laws. And I'm licensed in the state of Hawaii. I'm also licensed in several other states, which we can go into later if we want. But it basically means, besides the registration, I'm also licensed, which allows me to work with people with kidney disease.
And fantastic. Boy, that is a lot of schooling you did. Woo!
Yeah.
But it definitely helps when you're working with a kidney patient. And I'm watching. There are so many comments coming through.
Oh, that's wonderful.
I'm going to have to get used to reading the comments. And those of you who are used to seeing my videos, you're probably thinking like, James, you got glasses on. You don't wear glasses. Well, when I do my normal videos, I just memorize the talking points and just talk about them. But now I need to read things, so I got to wear my glasses. I'm as blind as a bat when it comes to reading things up close. So can you touch on the importance of nutrition when it comes to kicking kidney disease to the curb?
Yeah, that's kind of a can of worms, James, really, right? I mean, you know that we could do the whole talk today just about the importance of nutrition when it comes to kidney disease and, more importantly, kidney health. I always work with people with the focus of the health of the kidneys, of keeping the kidneys healthy. So nutrition plays a role in our kidney health because our kidneys are filtering what we put into our body. It goes through our mouth, it digests in our stomach, and through our gut, absorbs into the blood. And what's filtering our blood? It's our kidneys. So everything that we're putting in that gets absorbed has to go through our kidneys, and the kidneys are deciding, do I keep this or does it need to go? So it's filtering out the waste, and it's keeping the nutrition, it's keeping the nutrients that we need to stay healthy, alive, and well. So having the right set of nutrition parameters and nutrition prescription is so important when it comes to your kidney health. And I can't stress that enough, that there's really no such thing as the kidney diet, because everybody's kidneys are different, and that makes everybody's diet different.
Exactly. And that's probably one of the biggest challenges I had when I was first diagnosed, stage 5. What is the right diet? The original doctor told me, follow a renal diet. Also, I had some heart problems. So I said, also follow a heart healthy diet, but I couldn't figure out what to do. But as soon as I got with my first renal dietitian, I've worked with a lot of them, and the only reason I work with a lot of them is because they have so much information, and I'm a sponge when it comes to information. I want to get everything I can from them. And if my insurance will pay for it, or if you know it's not going to cost me too much out of pocket, I went and I saw another dietitian because I was determined not to go on dialysis. And once I figured out the right kind of diet, and it came down to looking at nutrients, not really a diet, but just looking at the nutrients I ate, my GFR started improving and my creatinine's going down. Everything just started getting better for me. Now, we had a question out here. Someone asked, James, what stage are you now? So I hate to say this, but the last time I got my labs was January 4th. I haven't had labs, it seems like a lifetime. I know it's only been 4 months, but guys, I used to get my labs daily, then got them weekly, and then I kind of felt heartbroken when they're like, look, come on, every other week's good enough for you. I feel like it's been forever, but my last labs had me at stage 3. I was doing stable, but most importantly, for the person who asked that question, it's not really what stage am I at. I have 0 symptoms. That is the most important thing. I feel great. I have lots of energy. Yesterday, I did 4 miles. I go out and I'm exercising. You know, I'm losing weight, staying healthy. I don't care what my GFR is, but my last GFR was a 33, but I have no symptoms, and that's what is most important. So, Jen, what are some of the common mistakes or misunderstandings that you see people have when it comes to a renal diet?
Oh my gosh, James. Okay, so I have to say, from my experience in working with people with kidney issues for the past 5 years, the biggest number one mistake people do is they cut out too much food. They cut out potassium, they cut out sodium, they cut out phosphorus. They see everything that has those nutritional things as being bad for their kidneys. And that's just not the case. And I can't stress that enough. Everybody needs some sodium. Everybody needs potassium. Everybody needs phosphorus. The important thing about it is to make sure you're getting it from good quality sources so that it's giving you the nutrition without harming your kidneys and damaging them from an overload of anything that could be potentially bad. So I can tell you literally 100% of my clients that come to me are over restricting. And I always start by putting food back into their diet. And that is probably the most rewarding thing for me, is to give people that security and permission to go back to eating the foods that they miss. I mean, one of my clients that I had worked with, I'm still working with her, in our very first session, she got to eat bananas. And she's like, I haven't eaten bananas in years. And she got to eat bananas. And to me, that it just brings me so much joy knowing that I can give that enjoyment of food back.
Yeah, and I made that same exact mistake when I first started my renal diet. Because of my heart, I got diagnosed because I suffered a heart attack. I had just pulled up to the outside the ER and opened my door, and everything after that was just in and out of consciousness. Somehow I was in a wheelchair. I remember being pushed, and I was on a gurney, and there's things in my arms. But when I got home, they said no sodium, or however they worded it. I just cut it out completely. And I ended up causing other issues that almost drove me back in the ER because I cut out everything instead of looking at how much potassium should I have? Because we need potassium. My heart needs it to keep working and keep me alive.
Yes.
I was cutting it too much. I cut sodium too much. But once I understood, it's not about bananas. It's not about avocados. It's not about tomatoes, okay? Those are all things that are high in potassium, but that just means you got to watch how much you eat, not eliminate completely. And I made that same mistake. And now, when people go out at work with me, we go out a lot because I travel quite often, or I did until recently, a lot of people are shocked. They're like, I thought you were on that kidney diet. They hear me talking about it all the time, and they're seeing me eat what pretty much looks normal, but I'm just making smart choices. I'm not getting a gigantic steak. I might have a salad, and I got a vinaigrette dressing. I'm not getting cheese on it and stuff. Just making small little choices here and there, but I'm getting to enjoy eating out, and I can eat out almost anywhere, including practically every fast food restaurant out there. I can find something, maybe just a few little modifications, and it fits my diet.
Yes, that's exactly it. I am so happy to hear you bring that up, James, because people become like hermits, and they say, I can't go out to eat. I can't do this. I can't do that. And another part of our health is our social health, which I think right now we're definitely experiencing how important that social health is. But that includes going out. And I want everybody who has a kidney issue to feel comfortable in knowing that they can go out and that they can find food that is not only good for them, but good for their kidneys.
All right, so I have a question that popped up here. What is the difference between a renal dietitian and just a regular registered dietitian?
Okay, that's a great question. So, registered dietitian, that is, like I said, the undergrad, and now they're requiring master's degrees plus that internship and national exam. That's what people need to do to become a registered dietitian. Different than a nutritionist who, like, James, you could call yourself a nutritionist if you wanted. Anybody can be a nutritionist. There's no requirement there. But for a registered dietitian, you need the schooling, you need the internship, and you need the exam. Now, a renal dietitian has to do I mean, anyone could theoretically call themselves a renal dietitian if they're already a dietitian. They can say, hey, I work with kidney people and I'm a renal dietitian. There's board certified renal dietitian, which is what I am, in taking that extra exam and doing that extra 2,000 hours. And all of those 2,000 hours are documented in working with people who have kidney disease, which I've done when I worked with the National Kidney Foundation here in Hawaii, and also in my experience in working in dialysis. And that's really where I got my passion for helping people not be in dialysis. I loved working in dialysis and I loved all of my patients and having those connections. But more importantly, I would love to see people not end up in dialysis.
And that was my goal, and I hit it. I avoided dialysis, and the doctor told me I had to have. As a matter of fact, my wife was standing there right next to my bed in the ICU. I'd been in there, maybe 3 or 4 days in the ICU, and the doctor came in, and she did not have good bedside manners. She said, this is serious. She was, trying to make sure she got my attention, but she said, you got to go on dialysis. If you don't, your wife's getting your casket in 45 days. And that just broke my wife down to hear that. And I just started using what I call my super nerd power, started researching, reaching out to everyone I could, looking at data. What really works? Because the internet, oh my goodness, full of so much stuff. Some of it not even helpful, and then worse, it's dangerous if you follow it. But I was able to avoid dialysis. My kidneys are still damaged. There's no repair in them. They're physically damaged. For everyone out there who's thinking like, oh, is this a cure or something like that? There is no cure. My kidneys today are just as damaged as the day I was diagnosed. If they do an ultrasound, they're still all scarred and shriveled a little bit and stuff like that. But I've learned to use diet, nutrition, to not overburden my kidneys, to kind of realize how to optimize. Hey, here's what they can do. Let me not overburden them, let them keep up with me. And by not bombarding them with so much extra potassium, phosphorus, sodium, sugar, and all this other stuff, and keep my blood pressure under control, they're better keeping up to me. And the whole secret to that is nutrition.
Yeah.
And as you mentioned, it's not avoiding potatoes, not avoiding bananas, things like that. It's understanding what are you avoiding in there. And it's more of limiting. And my dietitian, she gave me here's your minimum. You gotta get this much sodium a day. You need this much potassium, okay? You need this much. Here's your maximum. Don't exceed that for a lot of stuff. And then I used to use an app, and I track all my food in there. I used to track every single thing in there. Now, I got it. I know it. I've eaten enough meals. Yeah, I know what works.
Yeah, you've definitely, I know we talked when you're saying you're a numbers person, and that definitely goes in your favor of being able to get those quantities down and understanding and having those go-tos, especially, we're creatures of habit and we have our typical breakfast, we have our typical lunch, our typical dinners maybe, or typical snacks. And once you get those down and you know what's in there, it can help you better assess how that's working for you. Yep. Or maybe what you need to change to make it better for you. So It's a great thing to do.
With every set of labs, I relook at, is there anything I need to change? Is my potassium creeping up a little too high? Well, let me just cut back just a little bit, and I'm keeping everything right in the standard range. So my original goal was, let's get everything in the standard range. I was all over the place. When I was diagnosed with my kidney failure, I kind of for about 2 weeks lived off of sports drinks, which is, salt, water, and, electrolytes. Those were sky high for me, but my potassium was, so low. But I got everything within range. And then once I was in range, my focus was, let me get everything in the middle of the range. Now I just started tweaking a little bit my diet here and there to get in the middle. Now, as far as finding those numbers, where do you recommend, or where are some resources that people can go to find out what are low potassium foods, what are some low phosphorus foods, or to find out how much is in those. Is there any website you recommend or tools that you recommend to your clients for discovering that information?
Yeah, well, I think that the National Kidney Foundation has great information in their blogs and great resources there. I think you talked about the app of using apps to track your food, and some of my clients use the app that I provide within their portal, or they also use the chronometer app to track their food. Are you familiar with that one, James?
That's the one I use.
Yeah.
I love it for two reasons. One, there's a free version, and all of us can use savings. All right, I'm big on that. And a tip for everyone out there: if you find something you like that fits your diet, call up the manufacturer. See if they got any free samples or coupons. You'll be shocked at how many of them will send you coupons for free stuff. I love Chronometer because there's a free version, and then I pay for it, which lets me set maximums and targets for key nutrients like phosphorus and potassium, and it can warn me if I'm getting close. And with the subscription version, my doctors, all of them, all the doctors I have, the dietitians I have, they all have access to my information through the cloud.
Oh, that's great. That's really, really good. I've had clients share they share it like an Excel, basically. Yep. They upload that and share it with me, or they use, like I mentioned, my own food journaling that I have for my clients to access. And then I do the same thing for them. I can set their parameters of the goals of this is how much you need to have, and this is really where we want to keep that limit if there is a limit that applies. So there are definitely a ton of tools. I would say just to be careful if you start going into Dr. Google and you start looking too much into things. Like, there's a lot of false information out there.
Oh, yeah.
Right? So make sure the site that you're looking at is really an accredited site, and it's not just somebody who's, putting out, even if it's somebody who's putting out numbers, are they referencing a certain site? The USDA food database is a government site that has a huge collection.
Love that one.
Yes. And that's proven information. Like, that is something as dietitians we use, the USDA food database, to look things up for our clients. So using something like that. And
they just updated that one. Wow, it's now been a year. It was last March, I think, they launched a new version. They were going to launch it earlier, but there was a government shutdown for budgeting, and they combined a whole bunch of different databases and just made this one massive one, so rich with information. And best of all, everybody, it's free.
Yeah.
You can get to it. As a matter of fact, they even have an interface for the food tracking apps to hit it and get information. Now, we have unbelievable number of questions. Holy cow. Just trying to watch them scroll by. There's a lot of them, which is fantastic. So I'm going to kind of ask some of these just so that I don't have that big of a list. How can a person find a renal dietitian? We have Joyce, who's in Florida, and she said, hey, how can I find a renal dietitian here in Florida? And I'm sure a lot of people right now have that exact same question. How can they find one?
That is a great question. We honestly, renal dietitians, ones that are board certified and have that extra credential, it's kind of a needle in a haystack. There's 100,000 dietitians in the U.S., 100,000. 600 of us are board certified renal dietitians. Wow. So I'm not saying there's not more people, there's not more dietitians that can help with renal. There definitely are. But if you're looking for that board certified renal nutrition credential, 600. So it's definitely harder to find. But what you can do is there's several things you can do. You can go to eatright.org, and that is a site by dietitians, about dietitians. And there's an icon in the top that says find a dietitian. You type in your zip code and it will give you a list of the dietitians in your area. Another thing that you might want to consider, especially right now, is looking online for virtual dietitians. So, I, for example, I'm a virtual dietitian. I see all of my clients in this kind of format online so that they don't even have to leave their home to see me. And this is even before the whole everything that's happened.
Before
right?
all the world events told us stay away from each other.
Exactly. So this is how I've always been seeing my clients, and it's so great to work with a virtual dietitian, because when I work with my clients and we start talking about, let's say, sodium, then I get to say, hey, go grab me some of your things from your pantry and let's talk about some of the things you have there. Or maybe if they're calling me from their phone, and I can say, hey, can you walk over to your kitchen? I'd love to see what you have in your refrigerator right now. And that's definitely one of the beauties, in my opinion, of working virtually with a dietitian, that you get to share even more of what is your day-to-day life. Plus, you're already in a comfortable environment, which makes it more comfortable for you as well to talk about some of the things that we do talk about when it comes to your health and nutrition and your kidneys.
Yep.
Go ahead.
And I love that idea of having them show you what's in the cupboards and what's in the fridge. In the beginning, I had a dietitian who did that, and it helped me clear out a bunch of stuff that's bad. And if there's stuff up there, like say there were some Girl Scout cookies, just boxes and boxes of those, high sugar, they told me get rid of those things. So I was able to remove the temptation. So that way I'm not sitting there going like, oh, I'm a little hungry. What am I going to do? I'm going to down a box of Thin Mints. Didn't have to worry about that anymore. So I love that part of the virtual. What else were you going to say?
Well, there is another thing that the Kidney Foundation, the National Kidney Foundation, does provide, which is a site that you can look up dietitians in your state and your area, which I think is absolutely fantastic for the National Kidney Foundation to provide that bridge of connecting us with you and you with other dietitians. So you can go to the National Kidney Foundation. You can go to their website, kidney.org, and just search, find a dietitian, and you'll see the dietitian page come up. You scroll down to the bottom and it says find a dietitian in your area, and you can go there. So, James, I can also share that link with you as well that we can post for the show notes.
Perfect. We'll put that in the description, in the replay, so that everyone can find that link and all the other links that we've talked about and will be talking about during this call here. So we have another question. Boy, we have a lot of great engagement and activity here. How often do you think a person should be getting labs?
Oh, that is a great question. Well, okay, let's see. This is a big question. So typically, it's always going to go with how your kidney function is and what your kidney status is. And the more we are seeing bigger changes, the more frequently your doctor is probably going to be looking for your kidney results to be generating. For example, in dialysis, when I worked in dialysis centers, the labs would be drawn at least bare minimum once a month. But there are some labs that are drawn once a week, like hemoglobin, because your red blood cells are changing and you're getting medication during your treatment, most likely to help support your red blood cells in dialysis. So that could be weekly. But for dialysis, end-stage kidney failure, they're getting it once a month. For someone who is, let's say, stage 3, like yourself, James, who is doing really well, healthy, the doctors might not find it necessary to get labs like maybe once every 6 months. So it could be a little more spread out. It could be once every 3 months. It really depends on the doctor's order. They're the ones who are putting in the order for the labs, and what kind of concerns, if there's outliers. If your labs aren't falling into those goal ranges, maybe that needs to be checked a little bit more. One of the things that really is important, like we talked about, is potassium. If your potassium is out of range, that can get real scary real fast.
Exactly.
So you might get a potassium check, and if your potassium is running really high, they might do a potassium the next day, or they might do it in a week, or they might do it a lot quicker than they would do other labs. But if they see something like your hemoglobin A1C, your check for your blood sugars if you have diabetes, if that one's a little bit higher, they might not do a check for that until another 3 months, because that one takes a little bit more time to really reflect an actual change.
Yep.
So long story short, it can be 3 months, 6 months, down to a month, down to a week. It all depends on your kidney health, what your kidney function is, and the critical labs, the values that are outlying, how important it is to get those back in range ASAP.
Yep. And when I when I was first diagnosed, and a lot of people don't know this, I've talked about my initial story somewhat vaguely because until fairly recently, it actually was difficult to talk about emotionally and to recall that experience. But when I was initially diagnosed, the very first GFR test that they took of me, people will be shocked when they hear this. My first one was an 8. It's a single digit. They did get me up and stable to 13, and that's where they told me it ain't going to get any better. You don't have any chance. They wanted me on dialysis, and we made an agreement that if I got back down to 10, I would go on dialysis, but give me time. And the doctor wanted labs every day to see if I was going to progress and improve. And that's why I got them every day. And then as soon as I'm like GFR 15, GFR 16, she's like, okay, we can go once a week now. And then as I got better and better, it extended more and more and more. I miss those days. I really do. To me, if there was like a home little test, I would do it every day and just chart
Oh my gosh.
everything. I'd be, what did I eat exactly that caused that? Let me take a little less of that or avoid that or something like that. So if people want to work with you, there actually are people saying, hey, how can we contact Jen and work with her? How can we get a virtual consultation with her? How do people work with you if they want to work with you?
Well, that is so flattering. I love to hear it when people are looking to me to help them with their kidney health. Is always such an honor to be a part of somebody's kidney journey. And I love doing what I do. The way you could reach me if you would like to talk with me about working together is you can go to my website, and it's jenhernandezrd.com. Go to my website. At that top right corner, it's a kidney master plan call. That is a free call that I offer to everybody prior to signing on to work together. We really need to it's almost kind of like an interview. I want to understand what you need, and I want you to see how I work with you and what I would expect of you, because this is an agreement. And James, I'm sure you can agree with this, that you need to be on the same page of your healthcare team. And if it's a team effort. And honestly, you as the person with kidney disease, you're the captain, you're the quarterback, you are running the show. So I want to make sure that all of my clients that I work with they're going to take up that quarterback spot. They're going to be the captain of the team, and they're going to be the leader. And I am there to coach, facilitate, guide, answer those questions. So that's really what the purpose of that call is, to make sure that we both feel that this is the right path for both of us, because this needs to come out with a happy ending. And I want you to feel 100% supported and just get the best you can get and feel the best you can feel with the right nutrition prescription and right nutrition treatment plan.
Yeah. And every time I've worked with a dietitian, well, there was one negative experience, and that it wasn't the dietitian's fault. That was the one that led me to create my first dietitian video, which is things your dietitian didn't tell you.
I saw that video and it broke my heart. It just broke my heart. I totally could relate, because that was me in the hospital. That was totally me in the hospital. But I felt from your side and also from the dietitian's side.
Yeah, and that one's not the dietitian's fault. I'm in the ICU. Right. They're given a list. Hey, here's a list. You got 20 patients to see. You got 3 hours. Spend 30 seconds with each one. They're running around. They're fairly new to be, and they're doing that. They're popping in, and they got printouts, and they're handing printouts. And of course, they come to my room. It's like a heart attack. Here's this printout. Kidney failure. This printout. And I asked her, well, when you put them together, what's the common things? And she had never dealt with kidney disease before, and she's kind of looking through them, and she was very young, and she says, well, they both say don't eat microwave popcorn. So that was my takeaway. Don't eat microwave popcorn. But once I got out of the ICU to where I could really sit down with a dietitian who had the time, wasn't given my records and said, hey, you got 20 people to go get it done really quick before your shift ends. The first meeting is a chit chat. What do I like? Mm-hmm. How do I eat? What food do I not eat? And then she would ask, how do you feel about fish? How do you feel about this? How do you feel about yogurt? They'd ask all these questions, and they learned about my lifestyle and what I like and what I didn't like, and then we worked together. So to me, working with the dietitian, it's not a bunch of no's and stop this. If you're doing something really, really bad, they'll tell you to stop that. But it wasn't a bunch of negative. It was getting to know me and working together with me and just finding a way to make my lifestyle fit with minimal changes, the diet I needed or the choices I needed, really. I hate the word diet. It's more choices. It's choices and portions.
Right.
If I want to have a banana, I can't eat a bunch, but I can eat a banana. I'm not going to fall over, from potassium poisoning, at least where my labs are, no problems there. And that's to me, that's one of the important things about working with the dietitian is having that expectation that it's not a one call, they're going to send you some PDFs and boom, you're done. It's a relationship. You're a team. And I've always used that term, your healthcare team.
Yes.
And it's interesting that you say the patient's the quarterback. I see where you're going with that. I've always thought of it as I had to pick a quarterback. I had to pick, I'm a Seahawks fan. I had to pick my Russell Wilson, and that's my family doctor. And he knows what each player, all the other doctors, what their skills are. And if I got this problem, he knows what play to do. Okay, we've got to work with this, we've got to work with that, and we're going to get it all figured out. I kind of see my main doctor, my family doctor, as my quarterback, not my nephrologist. And that may come as a shock to a lot of people, but I find the nephrologist is there in an emergency. Things go really, really south. That's when the nephrologist gets called in. Again, my quarterback calls them in to play. But one thing I really like about the statement you made about you, the patient, us, being the quarterback, I think nephrologists are really looking for that in a lot of patients. They're looking for us to be proactive, to take the initiative to work with a dietitian, to listen to a dietitian, to make the changes a dietitian will recommend, to make the better choices that we need. I'm often asked, why didn't my nephrologist give me all this information? And I've asked them, when I talk to them, I ask, why do so many people say this? And even I went through a number of nephrologists. My first ones didn't support me. They just saw, hey, kidney failure, dialysis, see ya, bye. Until I found one that saw, I'm going to take the initiative, and then that one worked with me and encouraged me. And every single meeting, she set a goal. Your next time we're going to meet, 30 days, 45 days, whatever it was, I want this to be here. So I had these little micro goals. And then I would ask her, what do I got to do? You got to go see your dietitian. She shared the information, told my dietitian they were in the same hospital, which is great, that I could just make an appointment and use it the same day, pop on down there, see her and say, okay, here's what we got to do. My potassium, too low. I had a lot of problems going too low on things. I was just so restricted, that common mistake. Yeah, just that working with the dietitian was so important in that relationship.
Yeah, and I want to say that, doctors are there to help you with the medical side of things, to help with your blood pressure management, with the medications, to help with, diabetes and that balance. There's so many things for the doctor to be focusing on. And like you said, the doctor can be aware of the different players, the different people that you have to support you. So we can't go to the doctors and expect every single question to be answered. And that's why I exist. That's why I'm here as a dietitian, because you can spend that 30, 60, 90 minutes with me. In our first session with my clients, it's a 90-minute session. And you have all this time to just talk about food, to talk about diet, to look at the labs and see how that is reflective based on your food choices, because that can take a lot of time. And you're totally right. It's not a one and done. You can go in and see a dietitian for one session and expect everything to be solved, because I'm sure, as you know, James, like, you go to the appointment, you might learn some things, but then all of a sudden, like, 5 more questions pop up and you're like, wait, what about this? And what about this? And the more you learn, the more you want to learn, right?
Exactly. All right, let me look through some of the questions here. We have so many of them. This is great. Here's one I know the answer to. I'm going to let you answer it. Someone's looking for an example of a renal diet, like a plan. As I said, a renal diet plan. How could they get one? Is there a sample or something?
Well, there are plenty of samples that you can go and Google to look at different ideas. I do offer a free 6-day plant-based meal plan. I really do promote a plant-based diet when it comes to kidney health. So you can go to my website. That's jenhernandezrd.com. And when you go there, you'll get a little pop-up thing that asks you if you want that meal plan. So you just get your information and it gets sent straight to your inbox. And I'm not a big email person. I don't do a lot of emails, so you won't get me bugging you too much, but you do get that 6-day meal plan download. Now, it gives you a sample. It gives you an idea of how these meals can look in a day: breakfast, lunch, dinner, and a snack. It gives you all the recipes. It gives you also the nutrition breakdown, so you can figure out how it fits into that potassium balance that you need to have. So you'll see the amount of potassium in each of the recipes. And it also has a grocery list for you to be able to use. So there's tons and tons of different kinds that you want to look at. Just make sure wherever you go to get that plan, to get that idea, that sample, make sure that it does give you that nutrition information. It tells you how much protein, it tells you how much sodium, potassium. If they can do phosphorus, that's great too, because that can be helpful. But you really want to not just pick a meal plan that only gives you a list of food or even recipes that don't provide any nutrition information, because that's where you're not going to be learning too much and you won't know how it fits into your diet and your lifestyle.
Perfect. Another question. Eve asked, Jen, can you talk about weight and kidney disease, being overweight and underweight, pretty much how it impacts kidney disease?
Wow, Eve, that is a good question. There is a lot to do with our weight management, our weight balance with our kidney health. So oftentimes people who are heavier, higher in weight, they can have a harder time with their blood sugar control. There are studies with like metabolic syndrome that has to do with a higher waist circumference, higher BMI, even something like diabetes. But it really comes down to what you're putting into your body and the nutrition that you're getting from whatever you're eating. I often saw people, and then do now, still see people who have kidney issues that are actually underweight. And this goes back to that first common mistake that we talked about, which was restricting too much. People being too scared of what to eat, so they're not eating enough, and they're losing this weight unintentionally. They really didn't plan on it. But that means that they have a bigger risk of nutritional gaps in their diet because they're not getting the nutrition that they need. So weight being directly related to kidney health across the spectrum, it can play a lot of different roles, changing our blood pressure control and that kind of regulation. Like I mentioned, the diabetes, it can have to do even with something like gout, which is very common with people who have kidney issues. So, a lot of these things can be related to our weight balance. And that's something that I work with my clients, is making sure that they have the right weight goals in mind if they do want to make a change to their weight. I mean, if they don't, that's totally fine. We can still make a lot of changes in their nutrition and making sure they're getting the best of what they're eating. So, long story longer, it's all about, your goals and what you want for your overall health, and how that's going to play a part in taking care of your kidneys.
All right, another question related to weight, and I know the answer to this, and I was sad what the answer was for me. Will losing weight help your GFR go up?
James, it can, but it's really case to case basis. And it's always going to come down to the root cause of what caused your kidneys to be damaged in the first place. Okay, so if you were heavier and your blood sugars were getting out of control and you started developing prediabetes or type 2 diabetes, and the diabetes started impacting your kidney health, which is one of the top causes of kidney disease, then losing weight might be able to help your kidney health, because in managing your blood sugars better and having a better diet, you can be losing weight, which will take stress off of the kidneys. So it's potentially helpful. It's not a guarantee, though. If there was anything in the kidney world when it comes to healing kidneys, and we already said there's no cure for kidney disease, but if there ever was any big solution like that, trust me, we would all be screaming it from the rooftops, and we would all know about it. So there's really no hidden secret or hidden cure or treatment to the best kidney stability. It really comes down to the individual.
All right, here is a great comment that someone made that stirred a question in my mind. I've been on a whole food plant-based diet since November, and their GFR went from 20 to 30. Fantastic, awesome. I've learned that for me and for most people, a plant-based diet is the way to go. And you mentioned that you're a big supporter of that. Can you talk a bit more about why to help? I used to be the ribeye guy. Every meal, big old steak. Give me a big old ribeye. The bigger, the better. I got past all that, and my GFR has been very nice to me, thanking me for doing that. So what all can you share about why, as a dietitian, in your experience, you believe, and I agree, a plant-based diet is the way to go?
Well, a plant-based diet has been shown more and more in the studies that are coming up now, more than ever, that plants create less stress on the kidneys. And this happens for several reasons, and I'll talk about a few of them. So the first one, and I feel is the most important, is that it's giving you more of the nutrients that your body really craves when it comes to helping a chronic illness. All those micronutrients, the vitamins and minerals, it helps with balancing that. But one of those micronutrients is phosphorus. And this is such a hot topic in the kidney world. The great news about phosphorus in plant-based sources is that it's only absorbed by about 30%. So even if you find something like we talk about, nuts or seeds being high in phosphorus, 30% of that phosphorus is what actually gets absorbed. The rest of it will not get absorbed. So it helps you better control your phosphorus, whereas animal sources of phosphorus are absorbed upwards of 60 to even 80%. And then the worst contributor is the additives, the phosphorus additives that are found in packaged foods. And that gets absorbed 100% into our bloodstream.
Huge point right there. And I've mentioned a few times in some past videos, a lot of people don't realize that when you see a chemical phosphorus, it is in a format that is so easy, your body just absorbs it all. You get it all.
Yes.
But if you're going with plant-based, you're just getting a part of it.
Exactly. Another thing that's really great about a plant-based diet is fiber. Now, most Americans don't get enough fiber. 98% of Americans don't get the recommended fiber needs. Most people get only about 15 grams, where the goal is usually 25 to even 38 grams a day. And so fiber is super helpful in helping to eliminate wastes when we go to the bathroom. And so to get more fiber into our diet, we're really helping to support a healthy GI, a healthy gut, and really helping to eliminate things, including potassium. And that is such an important factor because meat, and if anybody follows me on Instagram, they might have seen some of my recent posts that I shared about the potassium content in animal products are actually quite high as well. But animal products don't have that fiber to help things move through as much as possible. So by getting more fiber in the diet, you're helping giving your body another way of eliminating potassium to keep it better controlled. So it sounds counterintuitive when we think about a plant-based diet. People automatically go to, but wait, what about the potassium? Well, it can be better regulated. And when done smart, and I'm biased, but to be done with a renal dietitian, it's going to be the safest and most effective way for you to find the most quantity, the most options of food that you can have when it comes to a renal plant-based diet.
Yeah, and that keeps you happy. It keeps variety, yes. and fiber is so, so important. You and I spoke recently about my fiber. I take what would be considered a massive amount of fiber. My daily minimum is 50 grams. And no, everybody out there, I'm not living in the bathroom. I've gotten used to it. I shoot for 50 to 75 grams of fiber a day. And there's so much that fiber does for us. And there's a question people are asking about. They're talking about a supplement that fiber helps, that I know you also use with your patients, and ask you your opinion about it. Renadyl. I've been taking it. I don't have my second set of labs. I wish I did, because I know they're going to be better. My bun is probably normal now, and my creatinine is probably even lower, my GFR higher, but it has worked great for me. Now, not everyone sees the same results I have, where your creatinine goes down and your GFR goes up. Some people just see it stabilizing you, keeping you steady, which is a good thing. But what are your thoughts, and how do you use Renadyl with your patients?
Well, I actually really, really appreciate Renadyl for what they do. And to be honest, I give my private clients a 90-day supply of Renadyl, and that is part of the requirement in working together. I provide it, but you got to take it, and you got to take it consistently, because that probiotic prebiotic supplement is really aimed at helping to ease the stress of what the kidneys are filtering. And it helps with that consistent bowel movement, getting rid of the wastes that we need. So I do provide a 90-day supply, and I do also offer it to people who aren't working with me. If you're interested, you can get a 15% discount on the Renadyl, and I'll include the link of how to do that.
It's right there on the screen for everyone.
Oh, perfect. Okay. So yeah, you can go there and you can sign up. You have an account, and you get 15% off of your order, and it'll get shipped right to your house. One thing I will say that I've had questions from clients and other people who have ordered is it is shipped. Right now it's shipped in the US. I don't believe they ship internationally unless you contact Renadyl, you contact them directly and you can work that with them. But for the US, when it's shipped to you, it'll be shipped with an ice pack, and it may be melted. Not the end of the world. That's just, you want to make sure that you store it in your refrigerator. So just move it right to the fridge and keep it there, and take it consistently as directed by your healthcare provider or the package instructions.
Yep, and the Renadyl can run for at least a week before being refrigerated while it's being shipped, but they do ship it with the ice packs. They do ship international, except for Germany and a few parts of Africa.
There we go.
They have people producing it all around the world. And you just take 2 tablets a day. Recommended to take it with food. If you don't take it with food, you might get a little gaseous while you're getting used to it. But it's easy. Right. I take it every day, and I am eager for the hospitals to open back up and let me go in there and get new labs and see how it's doing.
So I do have one thing that I want to add before we switch into topics, because we talked about the fiber. Now, I know people are thinking, oh my gosh, I got to go get fiber in. And they're going to go run out and get like the Metamucil or the other fiber supplements. What a really, really key thing that you want to take away from this part of the conversation is, when you add fiber to your diet, make sure you add it slowly, okay? And I really do encourage you to add it from food sources instead of supplement sources, because that fiber provides other nutrition when it comes from food. And if you take in too much fiber too quickly, it can actually cause constipation and other GI distress. So you want to make sure you do it slowly, gradually, and work your way up to something like James is talking about of hitting 50 plus grams a day. So take it slow, take it easy. It's a gradual process.
And I'm only doing that much because my doctor told me.
Exactly.
I was not looking to eat a lot of fiber, but I fell into the norm of not getting enough. And then it took a long time to start building up the amount of fiber. And now everything's working great, feeling fantastic, and I get it. So we have a question from a very good friend of mine, Allison, and her husband Russell in New Zealand, about what types of plant protein do you recommend for those that are looking for their protein sources to come from plants?
Well, that is great. And I just want to say, Allison, you are amazing. You are doing such great work, and you are just a star. You are a rock star, because not everybody would do what you're doing, even in the situation you're in. So I have to pause before I answer and give you like 10,000 stars. Kudos. Yeah. I'm
made her day. You made her year.
Oh, I'm always so proud and honored of, of people helping significant others, of people taking care of their families when it comes to kidney issues, because it's a lot of work. And not everybody realizes how much work that caregiver is putting into it. And Allison, you're awesome. You're totally awesome. And I would love to answer this question for you. So as I mentioned, really am a fan of the plant-based protein sources, and your protein needs are going to depend on the kidney function, how much is functioning and how much is left. You don't want to put a strain of too much protein. Even when it comes from plant sources, you don't want to overwhelm it too much. I do think that you can get more than plenty protein, all from plants. We are not required to eat animal meats to get protein. So, James, I did share with you some of those slides, and these are slides that we're sharing with you from my group course, which is Plant-Powered Kidneys. And it is intended for people with earlier stages of kidney disease, like stage 3 and earlier, before you get into a lot of the nitty-gritty stuff. But this is some of the information that I share. And we talk about the plant-based sources like quinoa and buckwheat. Those are whole grains that have a good amount of protein in them. And then we can't forget things like lentils and beans, other legumes, edamame, soy, tempeh, tofu. There's so many. And then also, fruits and vegetables do have protein in them. Now, it's not going to be like that ribeye that James was talking about, but it doesn't need to be. It really doesn't. And again, think about all the other nutrition you're getting from those different plants. Those different colors are providing different antioxidants, different vitamins, and that star of the show that we were just talking about, fiber. So by including plant sources of your proteins, you're going to be getting so many more nutrients that are going to be really helpful for you and protective of your health and your kidney health. I hope that helps.
Awesome. All right, so I'm looking at all the questions. Wow, we have so many more. This is fantastic. What are some good sources of fiber?
Oh my gosh. Okay. Well, in general, your fruits and your vegetables. And another thing to kind of even hunker down more in that, for the fruits and vegetables, think of the things that you would eat the peel of. You're not going to bite into a banana, although a banana does have fiber in it, which is really great. But like an apple or a pear, that skin is what has a lot of the fiber in it. Potato, that skin of the potato has fiber in it. So you want to include some of those things in your diet to get more fiber. There's going to be whole grains. Now, that's a whole other topic. Whole grains versus white grains, or complex versus simple carbs. The complex, the starches, brown rice, quinoa, like I said, buckwheat, farro, all of those kinds of whole grains are going to have that fiber still included. So you want to make sure that you're including a good chunk of your grains to be whole grains. And the old school thought, and check your handouts, those handouts that we talked about that the dietitian or the doctor gives you. If your handouts for your kidney health are still saying don't eat whole wheat products, throw them out. That is old news. Check that copyright date, by the way, because that is old news and that is no longer the case. Whole grains are so good for us and we want to be getting them. It's a plant-based source of phosphorus. It's not going to get absorbed as well, and you're getting that fiber to help keep a healthy gut.
All right, another question here from Ness. Is potassium only bad for the kidneys when it's too high?
Good question. Potassium has a really poor reputation in the kidney world that people get so scared of it, but it is an essential nutrient that our heart needs to beat. It needs to function. If our potassium levels get too low, it can cause cardiac arrest. Just like if our potassium levels get too high, it can cause cardiac arrest. So it's very important to keep your potassium in mind. You might not get your potassium drawn very often, but the good news is that if it's in range, you're doing great. You're doing a good job with your potassium balance. If it's running too low, don't be so strict on yourself. Find some foods that you enjoy and get those back into your diet, and talk with the dietitian about how you can do that in a safe and healthy way. If your potassium is running high, that is a bit of a concern. There are medications that can help that are out there now, and that'll be prescribed by your doctor if necessary. But we can also talk about ways to make changes in bringing your potassium down before it gets to that point. Really? Ooh. Oh, Beth, I'm so happy that you're on here. That's great. Hi, Beth. Well, I'm still an advocate for finding fiber in foods, and it's really not that hard once you look at what you can eat that's high in fiber. So if you're looking to hit that goal of 25 grams of fiber per day, you can do something like a half a cup of beans, which will provide upwards of 10 grams of fiber just from that half cup. So theoretically, if you're eating a balanced diet, if you're eating a variety of fruits and vegetables, you can easily get your fiber goal reached just by food alone. And I don't know about you, but I'm not too crazy about stirring something into a drink and taking that instead of like a beautiful, colorful salad or stir fry.
Very good. And I was accidentally muted there. A few people didn't hear me and they commented on it. My dog started barking. I think we're getting an Amazon delivery. So I muted myself and missed unmuting myself. All right, but we're back to normal here. Question someone had. What are your thoughts on the keto diet? Extremely low carb, low protein, high fat.
Well, I wrote a blog article on my website about this a little while back, so you can read that to get my opinion. I will say that it can work for some people. My challenge is that something that you could do for the rest of your life? Because the way that keto works is it's shifting you from carbohydrates as our main source of energy down to fat, which is like a secondary. It's almost like you have a sports car. You know you need to give it premium gas, but you decide to give it unleaded. What are the results you're going to get from that? Probably not the best. So I'm not 100% sold on it. Keto has its place in the medical field, specifically for epilepsy. Weight loss, typically it's short term. They don't have a lot of studies that show the long-term results, the long-term effects, especially when it comes to kidney health. So, and I mean, we already talk about things that you want to watch out for, like potassium and phosphorus. So to add another layer of restrictions or things to focus on, in my opinion, can be really overwhelming and just maybe not the best way to go in the long run. Because when I work with my clients, we talk about ways to make changes in the diet that are lifestyle changes. Like, these are things to implement from now to forever. This is not a 3-month, let's try this, and then, everything goes out the window after we stop working together. It's lifestyle changes. And I don't feel like keto really fits into that mentality of a lifestyle change.
Yeah, I badly wanted to try keto because I was like, anything to help. And my doctor made me wait until I got to a GFR of 30 minimum to try it. And the graphs are on dadvicetv.com. You can see my GFR working its way up. And then you can see when I went on my keto diet, there's a big old dip. We had to greatly modify it, and it ended up not really being keto anymore. It just ended up being more diabetic, watching the sugars and the carbs that cause sugar spikes.
Exactly.
And I've just stuck with that. Don't eat a lot of sugar. I'm doing great.
Yeah, that's a great point. It's all about the modifications, and you don't follow that cookie cutter pattern of a diet like that. You need to find really what works for you, and you'll see that in your labs. I really am happy to hear that. I mean, you saw that and you corrected it, and you saw that improvement afterwards.
Yeah, for me, since I did my labs so often, I always got labs, made a change, got labs, what were the results? Because I like the numbers, and if it's going to work, I'm going to keep doing it. If it's not working, boom, out the door, tweak it, find something else. Someone asked, how much water do you think a person should drink a day? And I've always given out a very generic formula that I found in a textbook, a medical textbook, which I was told, get this textbook when I was diagnosed. I wanted to learn about kidney disease, not because it would help me, just because I would be shocked at what it covered. It was a 2007 textbook, and it said drink half an ounce per pound every day, unless you're on a water restriction, or if you exercise, you sweat a lot, or a hot climate, then you got to adjust it for that. What recommendation do you give for how much water to drink a day?
Well, I always go off of several things with my clients when we talk about the best fluid. I think what you have is a good ballpark, again, with that very important sub note of, if you're on a fluid restriction or a fluid allowance, as I call it, you want to make sure that you follow that order, because not following that allowance, if you go over it, can be really, really detrimental to your kidneys and your blood pressure. So following that, if you don't have a fluid restriction, fluid allowance in mind that your doctor has given you, then you want to make sure you're paying attention to your thirst. And if you can, check your blood pressure, check your weight. People check their weight for weight loss, but your blood pressure and your weight can give you some insight into what your fluid balance is. You think about the times that you go to the doctor, your doctor always checks your weight and your blood pressure. It's part of the assessment of your fluid balance. So you want to keep those things in mind. I individualize my fluid recommendations for each of my clients based on their stage of kidney disease, where they're at, based on their current intakes, based on their blood pressure, their other health history issues, their weight. There's a ton of factors that really go into it. In general, and this is really, really general, so I recommend that you talk with a dietitian or your doctor about what is the best fluid amount for you. But in general, I think, James, what you talked about, about half of your weight in ounces is a rough estimate of what to go to. And really importantly, and we were just talking about this before we went live, really important that you want to spread that fluid throughout the day. You don't want to say, okay, I need to take 60 ounces and then just sit there and drink 60 ounces.
Sip it all day long.
Exactly.
I always, within arm's reach, have my water bottle with my water with some lemon juice in it for flavoring. And I had kidney stones once. I don't ever want them again, so I always add a little bit of lemon juice, because I hear that helps minimize those. But great answer. I see a question here, which I know a lot of people deal with. Anemia. Probably the worst part of kidney disease that I had to go through was dealing with severe anemia and then eventually getting it under control. I did it all with diet. I had no EPO treatments, none of that stuff. I did it all with
Yes.
diet. What are your recommendations for people who are dealing with anemia?
That's great. Once again, I wrote a blog article about this a while back that talked about some big tips when it comes to nutrition and it comes to how you can even cook to make a difference with your anemia, because that's one of the first things that people with kidney issues can often experience. They start to kind of feel a little more sluggish and tired, and that could be a sign of anemia because your red blood cells carrying oxygen to all of your organs throughout your body, it's just not doing that job as much. Now, your doctor may prescribe medication, the IV infusions. There's a lot of different ways medically that can help with that. But nutritionally, some of the things that you want to do is focus on foods that are high in iron. There are plant-based sources that are high in iron, and I talk about that in that article. You can also cook with a cast iron pan or skillet. Yeah, that's great.
Oh yeah, that's I learned that. I did not know that. And now that's all I use is cast iron.
Yeah, and it's so easy and they keep forever. I mean, what's not to love, right?
Exactly.
And another option is using the Lucky Iron Fish, which is literally an iron fish. And I talk about that again in my blog, and I'll give you a link for that as well. But you use this in your cooking. You drop it into a soup, a stew, anything with more liquid to it. Or you can even use it when you're making a pitcher of iced tea. Like if you do sun tea, like my dad taught me, you do sun tea and you throw that iron fish in there and you let that iron get into the water and fuse just like the tea is infusing. That's a really great way.
That is something I never knew. Boom! I'm going to start doing that because it's summer. My mom grew up making sun tea all the time. Big old jar.
Yep.
Now, of course, she had like 5 or 6 cups of sugar in it. I'm not going to do that. Those sun sweet tea. But I'm going to do that because, always looking for sources to get my iron so that I don't have to go to a pill.
Yeah, and better yet, add some of that lemon juice to your tea because vitamin C helps absorb that iron that you're getting in your food.
Right. Always good to have a little vitamin C with your iron and with your B complex. Help absorb it.
Yep.
I saw a good question right here. Hold on, where was it? Someone asked, any good nutritional food allowed at McDonald's drive-thru? Now, if I was to take the kids to the McDonald's drive-thru, I would get myself a salad with a vinaigrette dressing. That's kind of my go-to when I go out. No cheese, no croutons, no chicken. And with right now, you're not eating at the restaurants, I would bring it home and I would add some nuts. I love getting some cashews or pecans or walnuts. I would add my own sources of protein to it. And, that's my recommendation, or that's just based on what I do. Do you have any recommendations that come to mind on this?
Oh, absolutely. I think any kind of restaurant, first of all, there's tons of restaurants, especially fast food right now. They're doing such a great job of including things like a nutrition calculator on their website. So what I recommend is going to that fast food website, using their nutrition calculator and playing around with their different menu options. And just like pretend like you're ordering, click a few things, add it to your bag and see what the nutrition total comes out to. Take a look at the sodium, which is the number one problem with fast food, is that salt content. And then another thing, and this is a bonus trick, if you're tech savvy, it might be a little bit easier for you. If you can look at the ingredient list, which McDonald's does include an ingredient list, hit Control F, or I believe it's Command F on the Mac.
Yep.
You hit that for the search, type in PHOS. It's going to search the phosphate additives for you in those foods. And that's going to be something else that you really want to be careful of because, again, phosphate additives are absorbed 100%. So if you're taking a binder for phosphorus, make sure you're taking it with your fast food no matter what you see on that nutrition lookup, because you've got to follow the doctor's orders on your binders. But looking at the sodium, looking at the phosphate additives are the top things. And I do have another blog article for you that I will include that talks specifically about McDonald's. It also addresses Panda Express, Subway, Taco Bell, and I think Papa John's. It addresses a few other different places, and it gives some specific menu ideas. So I'll be sure to include that for you too.
Very good. All this great information is out there for free, which is what we're all looking for. I know a lot of people, I haven't seen anybody ask it, but so much stuff is flying by, I might have missed it. A lot of, or I even thought, oh look, Impossible Burger, Incredible Burger, whatever. Those things are loaded with sodium.
And saturated fat.
Yeah, so I just avoid those. And I did try the Impossible Whopper. One bite into it, it's not fooling anybody that it's a Whopper and that's meat. It did not taste good to me, and I was like, okay, not even gonna try it.
Yeah, not worth it.
Exactly.
And I believe, I'm pretty sure the Impossible Burger is higher in sodium than the regular burgers.
It is.
If I'm not
It's even higher.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, maybe you're cutting out that animal protein, but it's still high in protein. It's still higher in sodium. So, what are you paying for?
Yep. So we got a few more quick questions here, and I appreciate all your time, Jen. Thank you so much.
Of course.
Someone asked, do eggs harm the kidneys if I go and I eat some eggs?
It really depends on your kidney function and where you're at in the kidney health scales, the different stages. But there's really not a direct harm of the eggs. I do encourage some portion control when it comes to those animal proteins. Again, that protein load, because that animal protein is higher in acidity. So it creates that acid-base imbalance. So keep it restricted. If you want to do eggs a few times a week, egg whites are a source of protein without even natural phosphorus. So the lowest phosphorus protein, animal protein that's out there, are pure egg whites. So you can have them, but keep it limited. Each egg, like a large egg, is about 7 grams of protein. Our body only needs about 20 grams at most in a meal, and it might change for you depending on your nutrition prescription and where your kidneys are at.
Yeah, and for me, I don't eat eggs very often. I did a little bit in the beginning when I was first getting things figured out, but it is my one go-to when I travel. Because I know in the morning I can get some scrambled eggs. I can go down to whatever continental or lunch, breakfast there is at the hotel, and I can get me a little bit of scrambled eggs, and it fills me up. I eat very little breakfast, so that's kind of my go-to breakfast meal when I'm out on the road.
Yeah, and you do such a good job, James, about knowing your nutrition and what's good for you. And that's the most important thing, is that you know what's good for you.
Yep, and it all came from working with people like you, teaching me. I'm a sponge. I'm just trying to absorb all that information. And the videos that I make, that information isn't coming from me. It's coming from my healthcare team. This is the stuff they taught me. Or now, I'm working with so many dietitians like you. I get information and I'm just sharing it. And someone says, Tampa John says, I hope you guys do this again. We're going to do this every Tuesday. Every Tuesday, we're going to get new topics, take questions. This is our first one. Got a few little glitches. I forgot to unmute myself there for a moment. But we're getting it all figured out so that we can do this every Tuesday, 6 p.m. Eastern time, whatever time it is in your time zone. We've got so many things to talk about, so much great information to help empower everyone with the knowledge you need to see there is hope. Kidney disease doesn't have to hold you back. Now, you can't just, switch a switch on and all of a sudden you're all healthy and better. But for so many people, first of all, you control your nutrition, you control your diet, you're picking what you're eating. And that has such a huge impact on slowing down, stopping, or if you're really lucky like I was, even reversing some of your lost kidney function. And we're going to keep sharing this information and getting it out there for everybody. So I'm going to go ahead and any last comments you want to make to everyone out there before we wrap things up for the night? Because we could actually be here for hours. And we've been here. It feels like we just started, but we're coming up on an hour and a half, which is fantastic.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, I know that we could go on and on about this stuff, but I'm really excited for our next live because we're going to go into a whole nother set of subject and topics. And it's just so exciting. And James, I have to say, I love your positivity. And I know I've told you this before. I love your positivity. I love your mentality and your attitude. And I think, honestly, that makes a huge difference in your health anyway, because it's really all about how you approach it and how you feel about your own health and your care, because that what you feel inward is what's going to be reflected outward. And I just can't thank you enough for letting me come on here and help share hopefully some good tips and ideas for people here to learn from and to just feel better about their own kidney health. So thank you so much.
Oh, thank you. And I'll tell you, everybody out there who's watching, there are so many dietitians like Jen who have said, James, I want to help you. What can we do together? Renal dietitians, they're not given the spotlight as much as they should be. They can do so much to help improve your quality of life. Without a dietitian, I wouldn't have gotten my life back. And I've gotten so much, I'm not trying to brag, but I was at death's door. You guys saw my old videos. I looked awful. My energy was so low. I talked very slow. That was my anemia. And now I'm outside. I'm jogging. I'm doing whatever I want. Kidney disease, ain't holding me back at all. You can't look at me and tell that there's a problem. And it goes down to working with Renal Dietitian. So thank you, Jen, so much for being here and sharing this. This helps so many people, and we will continue to help people kick kidney disease to the curb. My favorite saying right there.
Just keep sending us questions, and James and I are both going to be doing the best we can to answer those questions. So send them our way, and we're happy to help.
Yeah, if you guys want to, shoot an email to me, James at Dadvice TV, say, hey, here's some questions. Can you guys touch on these in the next session? Jen and I will work together and work through those questions and get as much information as we can. Now, it's important to remember, everything has to be individualized for each person based on their conditions, but Jen can share, hey, here's what I would do, here's things I would look at, and sometimes it's, hey, here's the things you need to talk to your doctor about, or make sure and ask about this. All right, everybody, thank you so much for joining us. We have had so many people, so much activity in here. I am just thrilled with all this, and thank you so much, Jen, for joining us and sharing with everybody.
Thank you so much.
All right, everybody, we will see you next Tuesday, same place, same time, more information. Bye, everyone.